Yay! I'm set.
Right, Jools has finished adjusting himself.
That's why I've got a hole in my trousers.
Ease of access.
Ease to adjust, you know. I'm a member of the Adjustment Bureau.
Alright then, I'm going to start. Hello and welcome to another episode of Once Upon a Time in Some Guy's Parents' House. We're back in some other guy's parents' house to bring you this episode about Shazam. I'm your presenter, Mike, as always, and as always, my friends and yours, Jools and Rob, are with me.
I've got an idea. I think we should review a film.
Okay, and why don't we do the new film by Neil Jordan, Greta? That looks interesting.
I'm afraid that's not available at our local cinema.
Ah, damn.
That's fine.
Case,
that's fine. I
shall we
saw the
do,
trailer, so I've seen the film anyway.
Brilliant. Let's talk about Shazam instead then. Shazam! Which is a DC superhero movie about a boy called Billy who has no family, is sort of cast adrift in life and is given superhero powers by Jimon Hunsu as a sort of old cave wizard. And he...
We've all been there.
Hello?
Say my name so my powers may flow through you.
But I don't know your name, sir.
Shazam.
It's when he uses his superpowers, he turns into an adult, sort of, you know, big muscly adult superhero played by Zachary Levi, and he has lots of fun trying out his superhero powers. And then there's a bad guy, predictably played by Mark Strong.
Effectively, it's the superhero version of Big.
It is exactly that.
Yes.
That's a better...
Thank you, Mark Commode.
Oh, you're like a bad guy, right?
You literally did the opposite of what a superhero is supposed to do.
The film started with the antagonist.
Yes.
And, you know, enabled us to empathise with his reasoning. Okay, he was a two-dimensional villain, but
He's
other
about
films...
as three-dimensional as a genre like superhero films can hope for.
Yeah, it's acceptable,
It's-
and I
it's
think
a hard
rather
thing,
than just
yeah.
saying he's a villain just because, we get a little bit...
I empathise and I understand his motivations, and, you know, it's a genre where you don't need an awful lot more than that.
But nevertheless, once we actually get Mark Strong as an adult baddie...
He's
then
irredeemable.
He's really just, I want to beat Shazam. Like, there are lots of scenes between Mark Strong and either Asher Angel or Zachary Levi, and I felt like there were a lot of sort of false climaxes. The first one you get is like, I'm going to take your powers from you, ha ha ha. It never develops beyond that point, and I think it needed a bit more crunch, I thought.
How old are you? Basically 15.
He only becomes aware of him at the midpoint of the film. Mark Strong. I have no idea what the villain's called. Mark Strong.
His name was
Savannah.
Dr. Savannah, that's it.
Thaddeus Savannah.
You mean Mark Strong. Mark Strong becomes
Strong,
aware of him halfway through. So therefore you've only got you've got the end of Act 2 sort of plot point, which then comes them fighting, and it reduces the amount of time you've got to escalate Mark Strong's motivation, because it happens so late into the film that he comes into contact with him, which I agree. I wish there had been more escalation. I guess the plus side is it means they got to focus more in the first half on... God, what's his name? It's Billy, isn't it? The main
Billy.
character? I always want to say
Yeah.
Freddie or Billy, and I got them confused.
They're all alliterative, the names.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what are the other names?
Billy
It's like
Bats and
Mark Strong.
Freddie Fingers. I made that up.
Freddie Fingers. Rob, can you name another film starring Mark Strong as the villain that we both saw? And it's hilarious. Robert Downey Jr. uses his brain to work out how to punch people better.
Oh, Sherlock Holmes.
Break cracked ribs. Traumatized solar plexus. Dislocate jaw entirely.
So yeah, I didn't really like the baddie in this. I would say
I'm outraged. I think it was
Yeah,
great.
absolutely.
I think it was very entertaining.
the sins though were disappointing, right?
Yeah.
The 7 sins that he has inside him that are actually like the source of his power.
We all know what
they
Lush
were really
has done.
underdeveloped. You know, you've got 7 deadly sins. You could make this could be a really iconic design, and instead they're just these sort of swirly smoke things. You could guess what a couple of them were, but you should, you know, if you've got that, as a designer of a character has got to go to town, it's got to be cool, right? I mean, you're using the 7 deadly sins, and instead, I felt that they 12A'd this, and they were like, if we were to really go to town with the 7 deadly sins, it would probably make it into a 15.
I was going to say, in some respects, I was thinking this is quite a scary film, you know.
Mild peril, I believe.
Yeah,
is the
mild
term
peril.
they use.
Because there's a point where doesn't he burn somebody alive? Oh yeah, that's right. Someone touches one of those magical doors that take you to the
The Philip
Rock
Pullman
of
door
Eternity.
from the Northern Lights.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. that reference. And
Subtle
basically,
knife, subtle knife.
they just burn from the inside out. And of course, the scene where Savannah comes back and takes revenge on his father.
On Lex Luthor's dad from
I was going to say, yeah,
Smallville.
Yeah. Well done, yeah, that's John Glover. There could have been a montage, for example, of the sins.
On killing montage. So like a superhero montage, but it's just them people being murdered by.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know, in Ghostbusters, you have all the different ghosts coming alive.
Do you know I was joking, but now I think your idea is great.
Yes, when he unleashes his sins, let's say, upon the city, you could have different people committing sins and being affronted by.
What if the way they killed them was like, you know how in horror movies you always have specific deaths that are like the
well, that's what I was
crime they
getting
committed.
to.
Sorry, is that what you can say? But then what would
basically
what would
Seven? The film Seven,
film
but a 12A.
But I was going to say,
12A.
what would the
And
Lust Monster do? How would that kill people?
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
It would have to be a 15, as you're saying.
Essentially.
Like, which one was Pride? Of the 7 like ghost monsters, which of them was Pride?
They
Tell me
attack-
that, Rob.
Oh, well, they're not recognisable. That's what you're saying.
Rubbish.
Yes.
The what? Hang on. Pride. No, it wasn't the one with wings.
I thought that was probably Wrath. If I had to guess, I thought that one was Wrath.
Is the tongue one Lust?
That's what
It's
I
gotta
guessed
be.
as
It's
Gotta
well.
be Lust.
Yeah.
I know
we
Greed
found that Greed
kills
kills
the father.
Yeah, so it had 4 arms.
And
But
the
what
guy
I'm
one
saying
comes
is,
out at the
I thought
end.
it was, I thought
That's
they were underused.
No,
Get it? Get it? 4 arms?
Under
Greedy.
another-
Envy is the one that comes out at the end,
Just Machamp,
isn't it?
isn't it?
It's that little guy.
It is Machamp, yeah. Talking of antagonists, I wanted to talk about the minor antagonists, i.e.
children.
the Ultra Bullies from who seemingly
yes.
came out of the 50s. One of them wearing a leather jacket.
Spits on a baby.
Yeah,
that is a bigger villain
Yeah.
than Mark Strong.
Yeah, that's right. One even gobs on a baby.
That was the bit when I was like, these guys need to. These need
It was
to be
the
villains.
insults they were hurling as well, though. It included calling Billy's foster arrangement a fake family, laughing and asking, "Where's your mummy?" I mean,
Didn't they kick his crotches out from under him as well?
Yeah,
that's right.
And beat him with them.
And they
it
wanted to-
actually
yeah.
stepped
Yeah.
over the melodramatic line and became comedy for me.
Yeah,
I think
but
that was
it
what
was
they were going
absurd.
for. While we're talking about minor characters, I was going to mention the swearing Santa.
He was funny.
He was
the
hilarious.
cowardly Santa,
Yes.
who says to a kid, "Santa's always here for you," and then he runs off at the first sign of danger. And I think it's a particularly prescient piece of theological criticism concerning organised religion.
Thanks for that.
The certificate came up at the beginning and it said things like mild peril, violence, and small horror. I noticed the last one said bleeped swearing.
One of the warnings was also innuendo, which I thought you didn't need to warn people about innuendo. I thought the point of these things is that you can put innuendos in children's films because then the kids don't get it and the adults do. So why do you have to have a BBFC rating warning about innuendo?
Well, one, it gives someone a job, and two,
Innuendo.
maybe kids are just smarter these days. I knew you were going to say that. I thought that's too obvious.
It's too obvious for
The
Jill.
only thing that stopped me was I had to wait for a break in the conversation.
Sure. There are some kind of neat effects in this. I know it was probably not the biggest budget when it comes to DC movies.
I wanted to be
$100 million.
100 million. Well, that's
pretty high, but then that's
not
also
to be
pretty
sniffed
low
at.
for DC movies.
You got things like the magic dust exposition hologram, where the Shazam explains a past war
Right.
instead of having to
Yeah.
cut back and for us to see all of that. And that would also be more expensive. We'll just see it in a hologram. We get the gist. The transport to the actual Rock of Eternity with the freezing windows in the form of transport,
That was
whether it be
pretty
the
neat,
car
yeah.
or
I liked
the
that.
train, where Billy's memory of his time at the fair turned out to be rose tinted. We see it twice, and the second time the same lines are spoken, but when we see it from the biological mother's perspective, the colour is drained out of the picture, and the impression we get is that she's at her wit's end rather than psyched up and lightly sarcastic as she was at the
Yeah,
beginning.
well, she is a bit, because the performance is slightly different. It's got a bit of an extra sort of, I want to say desperation to it.
I feel like a lot of praise has been heaped on this film because it's gone for a much more sort of smaller, low-key, domestic-driven storyline. Like Deadpool, it's like, they kidnap his girlfriend and then he has to go and rescue his girlfriend.
These are emotional
And it's like this
stakes,
smaller,
essentially.
much smaller stake. But this, people are saying, oh, this is such a breath of fresh air. But this, for me, is exactly what superhero movies were always like in the 90s. I think now you can get away with making a film that basically is just what all superhero movies in the 90s were like. And everyone now says, oh, this is such a breath of fresh air. This is so interesting and unique.
I don't know if I completely agree, because I don't think like all superhero movies were like that during the 90s, but I agree that some of the better ones certainly were, because they had lower budgets, so therefore they were forced to take on emotional stakes and character-based things, and that made them far more interesting. But yeah, I mean, I could think of things like, I don't know, Blade, for example. That's like eternal night or something's going to happen at the end and kill everyone. And as we all know, Blade's a fucking great film.
If you think of the tier of superheroes, like the hierarchy of superheroes, where like first tier you've got your Supermans and Batmans, and maybe like second tier you might have like Aquaman and Captain America or something. I mean, you know, what tier of the hierarchy is Shazam?
Howard the Duck?
The same.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking Howard the Duck as well.
I'd say the
and
same.
Steel and Spawn maybe. Or
I'd
that
say
sort
it's
of
the
thing.
same tier as something like Guardians of the Galaxy. People don't have expectations about what this material will be like, and therefore it gives the creative people more ability to have fun with it. And also it means they might not what the Warner Brothers people sitting around their boardroom might not pay as much attention to it.
Do you know the history about Shazam and how Shazam used to be Captain Marvel?
Oh really?
What?
So Captain
As in the original
Marvel...
DC Captain Marvel.
Right, that's correct.
Yeah.
So
Not
Captain
the-
Marvel...
not-
Wow, this is confusing already.
Yeah.
It is. I mean,
Yeah,
so
there's two Captain Marvels.
Captain Marvel was created in the early 40s, I think 39, but it was first seen in Fawcett Comics in 1940. Then they were sued by DC for copying Superman, it being too similar. He's essentially like another flying brick, as they call it.
Well, isn't that why they changed his name to Captain Marvel?
No, that's later, but yes, you're close. So we don't hear from that Captain Marvel for a while. Later in the late 60s, Marvel Comics turns up, trademarks Captain Marvel. That's the point where you get the Marvel.
That's Marvel, okay.
In 1972, DC acquired the Captain Marvel from the Fawcett Comics, but then had to run any new comics under the name Shazam, rather than Captain Marvel, because Marvel had Captain Marvel now. And then recently, the actual... Whereas before, the name of the comic was called Shazam, but the character within Shazam was called Captain Marvel. Now, the comic creation and the comic are both called Shazam.
There you go.
In the space
Simple.
of 1 month, we had two Captain Marvel films.
Pretty much.
Effectively, Jesus Christ.
Excellent research, thanks, Rob. As an extension to my original question, does this feel like a part of the DCEU? Is this actually
not,
meant?
though.
It's not.
No, it's part of that new thing they've been doing. When they realised that all their extended universe films were just poisoned by the dark, gritty Superman shit, they changed it so that I think it's like the Elsewhere universe or something like that. It's the point is they're making
The same Elsewhere universe?
Elsewhere. It's inside the mind of a tiny child. They created they created something where each movie can stand on its own, which seems insane because that's really how it was back in the 90s, as we were talking about.
So does the DCEU not exist anymore?
I think it technically doesn't exist. I watched Gotham, the TV series, because it's old history of Batman and Batman villains. You start seeing them come up, and some of the names they're not allowed to use because, like the Joker, and they weren't allowed to have They weren't allowed to have Batman in it. No,
The Quizzer!
Well, it's weird. They weren't allowed to ever say the Joker, even though the Joker is in it. So they just refer to him by the name of the guy
clown.
who becomes him. It's really weird. And Batman, even though it stars Bruce Wayne becoming Batman, is never allowed to be called Batman or be known as Batman.
The winged
I know.
rodent!
Bats aren't rodents, Dr. Meridian.
And the whole reason they're doing this is because the DC people said people will be confused if there's a different Batman on the television than there is in the cinema. So...
No, they won't.
I know, exactly. It's kind of insane.
I think it's a good idea that they can allow directors freedom to make the separate films. I think that's a good way.
Yeah.
Rather than try to compete, because you did have this problem with Ant-Man, didn't you? Where Edgar Wright, creative differences that come up, where these directors, they want to make something a bit more, unique to their voice, and then they can't fit in with the Marvel style, so they get shunted out. Or that's why they pick up these young, up and coming directors.
Yeah, the ones usually from
Mr.
television.
Sandberg,
Like the Russo brothers, who've just made
toe the line.
ridiculous amounts of money.
Yeah, I mean, Sandberg does seem... I mean, both of his previous films, like I say, are part of a New Line Cinema as well. This is New Line Cinema. So it seems that he is he's someone they can pull out of the drawer, basically, to make a film like this.
Has he done any television?
Probably.
Because he feels more like a television director that's gone into film.
I think he might have, actually. I was going to say, he has brought some colleagues with him.
A janitor.
And one is the composer, who I have nothing but respect for at the moment, Benjamin Wallfish, who also scored Blade Runner 2049 and Sandberg's earlier film Lights Out. In some places it reminded me of the theme song for the cartoon Peter Pan and the Pirates from the early 90s. There you go, there's a deep cut for you.
That didn't exist.
Right? But as I,
Rob is the boy in whose head this universe is taking place.
it did confirm my suspicions, because there's a neat little behind the scenes video where they used a proper 100-piece orchestra and a 40-piece choir.
You were thinking that while you were watching the
The
film.
lot. Well,
Good
it's,
ear.
but I said at the end to you, I said,
Yeah.
this doesn't sound like a Zimmer job. Like, a computer job.
I thought you just
It
meant
sounds
because...
like a real
I see when you said that, you just
performance.
meant because it hadn't been composed by Hans Zimmer, even though it's a film.
Are there any other
Well,
points
like-
people want to make about Shazam?
I got one point which really just sums up my thoughts of the film, which is, I thought the film, I really enjoyed it for the most
That's
part.
one point.
But as an extension to that one point, the best superhero films that we tend to remember are actually sort of cross-genre pieces. Like, Batman's quite noir-y, and The Dark Knight's like a crime film, and a psychological thriller, and there's and even more recently, Logan's like a western. I think these are the ones that people tend to remember more of, and Shazam fits into that Marvel universe homogenous thing where, at best, when these films do what they do as best as they can only ever reach the heights of, that was really good.
If superheroes aren't interesting enough, that they have to be sort of slotted into a kind of pastiche of an already pretty well-claimed film.
But this is...
It's like King of Comedy, but with the Joker. Do we really need that? We could do a little experiment, a little thought experiment.
Okay. Throw it at me.
Pick a classic film.
Okay, classic film. Gone with the Wind.
Gone with the Wind.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Mike.
Give you a classic film.
No, give me a superhero.
Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman.
Actually, that works.
That would work really well.
That does.
Exceptionally
Okay,
well.
well,
I was
hold on.
thinking, throw him a curveball.
There we go. There we go.
Basically, a selfish woman realises that actually she should stand on her own 2 feet. That would be a terrible... That would be a terrible...
Oh, I was assuming that it was like Wonder Woman just gets injected into the story and...
Well, presumably she is the main character, right? And it's
right.
Oh, you're not saying like Wonder Woman's like...
You're replacing.
It's not like Wonder Woman's like Ashley.
She could be observing and... but yeah, that's...
So why would she be able to just watch it?
It's sort of shaking her head from the sidelines.
Why do you...
cut to...
So why do you
And
even
in the,
need
in
to
the
like
scene
do a
of
new
the burning
film?
city, like in the background, Wonder Woman's like holding up the building while like
So you
some people run underneath.
So you
This
just
is
have
some
Gone with the Wind, and then
horrible
you just cut to Wonder Woman.
Revisionist
grayscale.
superhero idea. No,
That's
okay.
interesting. This is the new reboot. You just release old films with new frames in them of superheroes, color graded.
Okay, what's a classic film?
Encino Man.
King Kong.
King Kong.
Right, and one of you pick a superhero.
King Kong.
Very good.
Captain America.
Captain America and King Kong. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's the prequel.
Yeah, that's right.
But in that universe, Captain America hasn't become the super soldier yet, so it's just like a really weedy bloke trying to fight off a giant ape.
Well,
So
this is a
so
sequel.
it's totally irrelevant that this man then goes on to
All right,
become
Son
Captain
of
America.
Exactly.
Son of Kong. It could be Son of Kong deals with
When does that
Captain
happen?
America. Well, I assume after King Kong.
Yeah.
Oh, you could create a new Fantastic Four, but with just classic movie monsters.
You should create a
That's kind of
Monster
fun, yeah.
Cinematic Universe. How about Monster Cinematic Universe?
Kong
with,
could be
with
the Hulk
the Mummy.
top-
We could kick it off
Sorry,
with Mummy.
Kick off with the Mummy, then you follow
Class
with...
Tom Cruise.
Well, I was just thinking there probably will be one of those kind of 1609 style films coming out.
With a
won't
Neil
there?
Gaiman comic thing.
Yeah, or a kind of, I don't know, Marvel film plus zombies. They'll start blending genres.
Hey, we haven't seen
together, so-
Endgame yet, for all we know. It could be full of zombies. Who's to say? Maybe they've already gone to that well.
The main problems with these movies, and which makes them so disposable, is that they're always part of a serial, right? You know, there's generally something that came before them, there's generally something that came after, and the superhero movies that really stay in your memory are the ones that I think feel completely self-contained, where you don't have to have seen anything before. It doesn't feel like it's just leading into the next episode. It feels like the stakes are high enough, it grabs you enough that you actually believe that if things go wrong, this was really the end. And I think the best movies in general do this. You know, they have a clear beginning, middle, and end, and they feel like a complete package.
I mean, how would you fix Shazam? How would you make it feel like a 1989 Batman?
I would make it 10 minutes shorter.
Well,
And that would be it. And that would be it.
Well, part of it's just. Part of it's just make your set pieces really, really entertaining, right? I mean, like you can get away with it, I suppose, if you do make something where the set pieces themselves feel new and fresh and exciting, or you can get through it by having a much more interesting conflict for your hero to overcome. You know, a lot of these films, at their hearts, are the hero has to come to some kind of understanding. I mean, Shazam's exactly the same, but a lot of superhero movies, you know, there's an obstacle, an emotional obstacle which is put in the path of the hero, and they have to overcome it, and that's how they win the day. And Shazam is very much that kind of thing, but I don't think it's interesting enough. I think we've seen it all before. This is well trodden ground, I think, with Shazam. So it feels disposable, and it feels just, well, the writers have to have some kind of
Sure. So
I mean,
being tasked with the job of making Shazam, would you just reject the job offer because it's just impossible to avoid retreading the same ground?
Probably, it's an inherently not interesting enough.
You think, well, it's a waste of my time essentially. 'Cause
More or
it's nothing
less. More or
That's what
less.
you're getting
Yeah.
I've got a question for you, Rob. Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
This is the first film where we've used one of these Meerkat movie 2-for-1 offer vouchers. No sponsorship included. It meant that we saw it for a reduced price. We saw it for like $5.50, I think it ended up being. If we had paid £11 for this film, do you think you would have felt the experience was as positive as you feel it is right now?
Just to clarify, I'm not saying this is a perfect film. I did enjoy it enough to recommend seeing it at the cinema, but yeah, it does affect your decision. But however, you can have a film that goes so far off the bell curve that you're never going to like it. For example, when we were on that Limitless, Limitless
I was just
car,
thinking about
and
it,
we watched London Is Fallen.
Oh god.
And yes,
No, I wanted
It's a very
my
hateful,
free movie back.
terrible film.
Was this film worth £5?
Yeah,
Was this film worth £10? See, that's interesting. The pause there.
As of a week ago, the international cume for this film stands at $322 million. So on a $100 million budget, it seems fairly likely that a sequel will happen. So, what do we think is going to happen in the sequel?
Where do we go from here?
Rob, why don't we start with you? What is Shazam 2?
here's the conceit. That strange caterpillar thing from the end of the film. Actually, that's Mr. Mind. Who is...
I love that guy.
Yeah,
I love
he's
that guy.
and I quote, extra-dimensional worm that feeds on brainwaves. Anyway,
Who is
that's kind of irrelevant to my conceit. Basically, that caterpillar thing has to get Mark Strong out of it.
How do you forget Mark Strong's name? He plays Mark Strong.
I was trying to think of the name of the villain, but I thought,
No,
nah,
it's Mark
going to
Strong,
fall back
Mark
on
Strong.
Strong.
Mark Strong.
That sounds like a villain's name as well. doesn't
Dr.
it?
Strong.
Yeah, Dr. Strong.
It's certainly more fearsome than his actual name.
Does he have a doctorate? He should.
Dr. Mark Strong. I would want to be...
Get a PhD in something.
PhD in evil studies.
So the caterpillar thing has to get Mark Strong out of his jail cell. So he summons one of those magic doors. The catch is it's a random time period and or dimension on the other side. He takes the chance and jumps through. Batson and the gang are called upon by some ancient alert system in the Rock of Eternity and have to find which dimension is in trouble. Eugene works out that one of the doors is being eaten by some time-space woodworm.
Which one's Eugene?
Oh, he's the nerdy kid character.
The little nerdy
Oh, the
Asian
one that
kid.
plays computer games.
He's the hilarious
So
one.
I don't know any of the names of these characters besides Freddie and Billy.
It's fine.
And Mark Strong.
Yeah, Eugene works out that one of the doors is being eaten by time-space woodworm or something else. Maybe the hinges are rusted or something. So they find the one where there's a problem in the dimension and they jump through. Only to be stuck in Arthurian legend.
Oh my god.
Sans powers.
Wow, I would watch this film already.
Strong makes a deal with Mordred while the gang find out that Merlin was the original Shazam or something.
Oh my god.
Nice.
It's a
Great.
quest for the Grail, with the seven of them entering the woods at the point it seems darkest to them. Classic vision journeys unfold. Okay, it's Excalibur. Shazam
Yes.
2, Shazam a lot.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
I would watch that. And I know that would make no money. And everyone would say, Shazam is dead. Who thinks about combining things of Arthurian legends? And they'd say it's because people don't like Arthurian legends, but it's actually because it's a great film and just no one went to see it.
Well, thank you, Jules. But it's interesting,
I
it's
agree.
tied into what you said about cross-genres, I know.
But how adult in Excalibur are we getting? Because there's some pretty adult scenes in Excalibur.
I would get Borman to direct, of course.
Yeah. That'd be an intense... I've got to say Shazam.
And I would watch it.
Mike would watch.
I've got to say Shazam and the tone of intense is not one I'd put together.
Wagner. Kids running through a field. Anyway,
Oh my God.
I'm gonna give you mine.
please
Please
do.
do,
Please
please
do.
Okay, so Shazam at its heart was essentially a sort of family got-together movie. So it's like the gang's together. So in the sequel, you have to have something that breaks the family apart. And in this case, I think because the protagonist is a teenage boy, it needs to be romantic in nature. So you have a sex appeal villain who blindsides Billy as to, what's right and good, and leads him and appeals to his irresponsible side. You could clash that with a good romantic interest as well. So you've got sort of, being pulled in two directions. I put the worm could be the mastermind, but frankly, I don't really care about the actual lore of the program.
You sound like the people on the DC.
I also think I
Is there kind
also
of...
think you could lead Billy into spending all of his time as Shazam, and spending no time as an actual boy and spending all of his time as the superhero.
What's the cost of that?
And yeah, exactly. And spending no time with his family, that's the bad thing. And obviously you've got the comedy potential of the adolescent adult thing with a lot of sex thrown in as well. So I think that's the line, that's the route I would take it down. Evil temptress villainess who tempts him away from what's good and right.
Superhero porkies.
The remake of Bedazzled, but better.
Yeah,
sort
yeah.
of. I mean, it's a strange one, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
If we switch the genders, would we have a problem with it? Probably.
Possibly, it would be more questionable, but.
And that's the thing with Big, isn't it? There's the.
Yeah, that gets pretty.
They get together.
That'd get pretty.
It's kind of creepy by the end.
Yeah. There are probably quite a few internet articles about it.
I'm sure there are. Anyway, that's my take. Jules, do you have a third sequel idea for us?
I have a confession to make. I forgot to do a sequel, but I'm a writer, a storyteller, a dream weaver, if you will.
Visionary plus actor.
Visionary plus actor. So, much to your chagrin, I'm willing to...
my charred grin.
Your charred grin. Much to your charred grin.
Oh my God, okay.
Much like the woman whose face explodes on the door into fire in Shazam, your charred grin. I'm willing to try and improvise one.
Oh my God.
And if it's terrible...
Have you even got a thread now?
No idea whatsoever.
What?
If this
That's why he's still talking about
Here we go!
My logic is, if this is terrible, it'll be cut out. And if it's good, and you're hearing me say this, then what you're about to hear is... It's a film made in the last 30 years. So, exterior, cityscape establishing, boom, you see it. And
which city?
It looks it looks shitty, and you're like, oh, it's an apocalypse.
Yeah,
and then you realise it's not. Then you realise it's not an apocalypse. It's Philadelphia. Just a shitty place. People shouldn't live there. You cut to the front of the bank, the first century bank, we'll call it, and then we're inside, and there's a bank teller, and she's just doing her job, and there's a man, and he's like, oh, can I help you, sir? He's like, hello, I'd like to make a withdrawal, please. She's like, oh, how much would you like to withdraw? And he goes, everything in the safe! This is a robbery! And there's guns in the air, and it's like, oh god, this is a robbery. And then there's the voice from next to him, and it's, hey, douchebag, you shouldn't do that. Hey, kids, do you not know what a gun is? If I see you again, I'm gonna put 2 inches of lead straight in your It's the bank teller, and she's under the table. She's about to press the button. Fly across behind him. Shazam, whatever. And got a withdrawal to make myself. You from this bank. I'm setting the seeds.
Okay.
He smashes through, and if you don't let us rob this bank,
gonna kill the dog.
I'm gonna kill you and the woman's holding the dog
right.
up to her neck.
And a gun. Oh, it's a knife, right?
A knife, of course. Yeah. It's got to be a knife, because it's got to go through both of them at the same time. And
bullets
then
couldn't do that.
And then put it
Don't
down.
stop speeding bullets, much like Shazam.
We've really grown as brothers and as friends, and nothing will ever change that. Rustles his evil caterpillar moustache.
Skip to the end.
I'm not. This is the first act. And
Yeah, we don't
you
need-
can't
we
do
don't
the
need that
first.
much. Come on.
We need the conceit of the sequel.
Okay. I'm gonna jump ahead.
They fall out again.
We jump ahead. Okay, I'll jump ahead.
Like in the first film.
I'll
they've
jump
fallen
ahead.
out.
I'll jump ahead. MacGuffin Mountain that holds the magical crystal of demonology, which just happens to be where we put the demon ball. It's the demon ball. He's going after the demon ball. Freddy, don't take the demon ball. It will make you evil, and we're best bros and friends, and nothing will ever change. Like, oh, but think of the power. Think of every ball. And it's like, Freddy, what did you do?
That was really good.
That's
thanks.
the midpoint. That's the midpoint.
That was good.
That's the midpoint.
That was great. I can't wait to see it.
I'm about to arc into a dark, gritty DC movie. Turning the entire world into a foster home for Earth. He throws himself into the space laser with both of them. It destroys. Uses the word Shazam, and a lightning bolt comes down. Destroys. There's been no jokes in the last 3 hours, by the way. There's been no jokes in the last 3 hours, and he cracks his deck, and he shouts up, "No!" Credit screen happens. The first credit screen. And it's a Rage Against the Machine song. And it's like, yeah! Comics are for cool people, fuck the system, yeah! And in his hand we see a playing card and it's got the Joker on it.
No way.
And then, I know, way. And then we get to a regular black credits and it's 20 minutes of CGI.
Impressive.
Thank you.
Good riffing.
Thank you.
So should we move on to another segment?
You enjoyed that, didn't
I'm
you,
sorry.
Mike?
I'm
No.
sorry, guys. I didn't. I thought I could do that a lot quicker as I was saying it. Then I realised no. What that plot would lead into that plot point, and then it was. See, now I'm realising it should have been a MacGuffin. No, I'm not going to think about it.
Okay.
Because the evil villain guy, he should have been.
You don't have time for anymore, it's fine.
No, the caterpillar should have. It was his evil plan to get Billy to take. No, Freddy to take the evil demon ball, and that's why he tricked him. And that's why at the beginning
Look,
he said to him,
I'm
"You
sorry-
don't trust me."
I'm sorry to piss on
Because
your
he was
cornflakes,
evil.
but that demon ball was in the Rock of Eternity, not in some castle in the sky.
What's the Rock of Eternity?
It's their lair. Their own lair.
I didn't know that either. It's fine. It's fine. We've had enough of that.
Oh.
So, okay, it's that time again. It's time for us all to go into marketing poster mode and come up with a tagline for Shazam.
In space, no one can hear you scream. The brother of the director of Ghost. Be afraid. Be very. Whoever wins, we lose.
Tag your flick. Tag your flick. Mike, you go first on the tagline.
All right, I did think of one this time. Here goes. He can step up if he grows up.
Yeah, nice.
That's my tag.
I like it.
Thanks.
Not bad.
Step up for
So
Shazam.
almost
It works.
Shall I go next?
Go for it, Rob.
Well, I'll probably take about 2 hours to do mine. So.
Right, I don't know if I should explain the poster, but okay. A lot of kids catch a bus in the morning. Billy took it literally. It's like,
that's good.
it's like
It's
the
the
poster
bit
is the
where
kid
he's-
putting his arms up to catch the bus with the biggest shadow of Shazam behind him doing
That's
the
it.
same. And
That's really nice.
that's the deal, yeah.
And Rob has a drawing of it there.
I do, there you go. Can you
Is that-
see? What do you
is that
think?
paint?
Really good, yeah.
Yeah.
Is
The
that
best part of the episode.
Thanks.
Jesus? You sure that's is that a little racist? Okay, taglines. Very simple, and a very simple, very sweet tagline. Boy, that's a superhero.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah.
Simple. I like it.
That's it. Then the poster would be irrelevant. It could have an old man on it, and he could be a superhero, and he'd become an old man.
Actually, you know, last episode we were bemoaning the passing of taglines in films. However, it would appear that there are some official taglines for Shazam.
Oh, are there?
These are: if you want to save the world, say the magic word.
Oh God, I
Which
don't.
is Shazam.
Please tell me it's Shazam.
Next one, just say the word.
Yes, word.
He's not so serious, and every hero has a secret.
The thing is, it's not so serious. Needs you to know about the Dark Knight in order to understand it. And that last one could have been like 100 films. Super zero to superhero.
Yeah, or who said growing up was going to be super easy or something like that.
Welcome to the big time, superhero.
Or that.
Big. How about it's like Big, but with superheroes?
Right.
He's a big superhero.
Well, you
Sounds a
can,
bit dodgy.
I can go.
12A.
I can do another one because everyone, exciting news. We received a fan letter.
Holy shit.
Wow!
Which I will now dutifully read to you.
I don't think I've ever been this excited.
Just wait, Jules. Just wait.
Just wait to be
I really wish I was wearing my trousers.
Here we go. Dear Mike, last month I was listening to Once Upon a Time while ironing, as usual. When Jools started talking about the parallels between Alita Battle Angel and Encino Man, a cold shiver ran down my spine. How had someone noticed? How had I failed to cover my tracks? Before I knew it, I had burned a hole in my favourite pair of socks. For weeks now I haven't gotten so much as a wink of sleep, so now, heavy-lidded, I tell my confession. It was the summer of 1991. Terminator 2 was entering theatres to rave reviews and I felt unstoppable. Hollywood Pictures called me to talk about a new project, my dream project. Brendan Fraser and Sean Astin were already on board. I couldn't turn it down, but there was one problem. The title broke my golden rule. Ever since that day at the funfair in 1963, when the old fortune teller told me in her broken voice, "Only stories beginning with A-L-T will by your hands the millions see," before vanishing into a mist of cackling laughter. I begged Hollywood Pictures, call it Anaheim Man, Tahoe Man, anything, but they wouldn't budge, so I had to turn it down. It haunted me for years. Every time I saw that smug look on that bastard Fraser's face, then I saw my opportunity. As I read the treatment for Alita Battle Angel, I saw the signs. This was Encino Man reborn. I tried to hide my excitement, but I didn't have to. What shone from the pages like a holy revelation was lost on others. Until now. Writing these words soothes my soul. Mike, tell Jools he was right about me. Tell him he was right. Yours sincerely, Jim Cameron. P.S. Love the show.
Oh,
Fucking
Cameron,
knew
isn't
it.
Thanks very much, Jim.
I knew it.
This proves nothing.
What if I'm right about that? I must be right about everything.
Oh no. I think he knows that we are such a small listenership that no one will ever find out his secret.
And that listenership just hit the iceberg.
I'll never let go of our 7 subscribers.
Right.
Anyone else wants to write in with some fan letters, please do, and we will read them out.
It's time for quiz time.
Yes!
It's 3 questions, and each question has 3 possible answers. Question 1. The character of Shazam was born in 1939, but at the time went by the name of Captain Marvel. Which one of these... Correct! Which one of these is the real Captain Marvel villain? A. Hate Monger. B. Captain Nazi. Or C. Detective Chimp.
Oh, I know Detective Chimp is a real character. At least I believe it is. What was the first one again?
Hate Monger.
That sounds like the villain from Black Panther's one, but slightly bastardized. It was called something Monger.
Warmonger? No.
I don't think it was an actual word. It was like,
Okay.
but it was like it was his surname. But I'm wondering if that's what Hate Monger sounds a bit odd.
I've genuinely no idea, but
I think Detective Chimp is a real character.
We're a team. Detective Chimp. That's my answer.
I think it's a real character.
Final answer?
Final answer, Detective Chimp.
I'm afraid you're wrong.
Am I wrong?
I led you down a bit of a dark alley because Detective Chimp, he is a real character, but he isn't a Captain Marvel villain. He's actually a pal of Captain Marvel. He was captured in...
That sounds gross.
He was captured in Africa in the 50s to perform in a sideshow. He later drinks from the Fountain of Youth and joins Shadow Pact and Justice League Dark. His first appearance was in Rex the Wonder Dog #4.
Dr.
He
Chimp,
ripped the Wonder Dog.
Rex the Wonder Dog.
That dog was never the same again.
We should never have let the chimp hit that dog.
That's Detective Chimp.
Detective Chimp.
Who is who's that guy then?
The correct answer
is
Captain,
or whatever.
Captain Nazi.
It's Captain Nazi.
A genetically altered supervillain who uses a special gas in order to fly.
Oh no.
Oh god, I don't want to... What was the people that are under the gas?
Hate Monger was a Captain America villain.
Oh right.
Adolf Hitler's consciousness in cloned bodies that wear a kind of KKK hood with the letter H on it.
Comics are for cool people.
Wow.
So there are a few curveballs in
why
there.
do we talk about these things?
Out of all those, I'm still amazed that, that even though I knew it was true, that Detective Chimp is still a character.
Yes, so it was a bit cruel, but there you go. 1-0 to the Quizmaster so far. Question 2.
Okay.
The serial Adventures of Captain Marvel, Curse of the Scorpion, is often considered one of the most critically acclaimed serials of its time. It has all the hallmarks of an exciting adventure romp, a scorpion idol that can turn rocks to gold, Captain Marvel machine gunning people in the back, and of course a vengeful volcano. One of the directors of this serial, William Whitney, made quite a few films in his lifetime and is considered by Tarantino to be a lost master. Which one of these films is not a Whitney classic?
Whitney classic.
I think I did one of those yesterday. Hang on, by cereal, you're not referring to what you have for breakfast. This is
a film serial.
Film serial.
The same length of one Marvel film, but in different parts. Okay, so the options are A. Mysterious Dr. Satan. B. Dick Tracy vs. Crime Incorporated.
Oh my god.
Or C. Beach Hula Party 2.
I have one question. What was the actual question?
Which one of these is not
a William Whitney classic?
Which isn't his Catnick. Can I hear them again?
Mysterious Dr. Satan. Dick Tracy vs. Crime Incorporated.
Oh, was Dick Tracy made by him?
Or Beach Hula Party 2.
I want to say that the Dick Tracy one probably is real,
But is it maybe? It sounds like maybe Rob's. But then maybe coming off the last question, he's made it so. I mean, I'm metagaming here, but he's made it so the next suggestion is the obvious one is true.
Maybe.
Do you have any inkling besides the same as I that Dick Tracy is real?
I just Hula Party 2 feels like it's too wrong, so I'm going to guess that actually is him. Like that's the one that seems out of place. So I'm going to not leap to the obvious thing and say that one. And I'm going to, and I reckon maybe he did make a Dick Tracy. So I'm leading to Mysterious Dr. Satan is the one that I think is from Rob's crazy fever brain.
I think it is Hula Party 2 or whatever, but because I led us down completely the wrong stretch on the last question, I'll go with your lead because I think that is definitely the most likely.
We can split if you like, and we can be in competition.
Oh god, if it's
how annoyed are you going to be if you were right?
It will affect me to no degree whatsoever.
In that case, we're both going with Mysterious Dr. Satan.
But if it's Hula Party 2, amazing. But if it's not, everything's fine.
I'm afraid it's Beach Hula Party 2.
Yes.
There was a fad of... I was trying to trip you up, you see. There was a fad of beach party films in the mid-60s. The first being in 63 called, unsurprisingly, Beach Party. Yet, I'm afraid Whitney didn't get in on that fine sun-kissed dollar, but he did turn to blaxploitation with his somewhat divisive last film in 1974 called Darktown Strutters. Anyway, I just thought I'd throw that in because I thought, well, his filmography extends into the 60s and then the very early 70s. So I thought, well, what's a sort of mid-60s film he could have probably done? And
I was still thinking about Detective Jim.
Too clever for me, I'm afraid, Rob.
No, that's fine. I hear that a lot. Okay. Question 3. Shazam.
Right. We can get one right, dude. We can get one right.
Shazam had a TV show named after him in the 1970s.
Okay.
But did you know that it spawned a spin-off called The Secrets of ISIS? And no, it was not a deep dive into terrorism, but a show which featured the first of its kind where a female superhero was the lead protagonist on television. Andrea Thomas, a schoolteacher, transforms into an Egyptian goddess. Which of these is not a real episode title?
Oh, God.
A. Seeing Eye Horse. B. No drums, no trumpets.
No drums, no trumpets.
No trumpets.
Yes.
It's very relevant.
Important to make that distinction.
Very relevant distinction. No drums, no
or
trumpets.
Or C. Rah, rah, rah your boat.
Oh, my. Oh, please be C. Jesus Christ.
So the question is, which of these is not a real episode?
Oh, not? Which one isn't?
Not a real one.
Rah boat is...
Similar to the last question.
Is it too much of a pun where it would be going too far?
So I think it is that one because I think that's I'm trying to put myself in. Rob has to think of some amusing episode titles relating around Egyptian gods, and he went with rah 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 your boat.
What's the other two?
I think that sounds
but he could have seen it on something else, and it's like it could have been part of something else, and he just took that one.
Seeing Eye Horse.
That is so stupid. I don't think you'd do that.
No drums, no trumpets.
Which you made.
Yeah, they're too obtuse.
Rah, rah, rah your boat.
They don't feel like they come from your brain.
I think rah, rah, rah your boat. It's a very good title, thanks.
Yeah, I reckon it's rah, rah, rah your boat. And if I'm wrong, then you should have come up with rah, rah, rah your boat because it's hilarious.
Is that the final answer from both of you?
Yeah, rah, rah, rah your boat.
You're correct. Yes! That was my title. And I did think at the time, actually, this isn't as clever as the last question, but I also thought, let's throw him a bone.
We've got to get one of them right.
Yeah, exactly.
One right. You made it much more difficult, because when I did it last time, it was a 50-50, but then you've given us like a 1 in 3 chance.
Well, I had like 4 or 5 answers for that bloody Captain Nazi question, and I was like, I better whittle them down, because there's so many stupid characters. So there's a bonus question here, but I'd be very surprised if you guys got it.
Wing it on us.
Bonus round.
In the 19...
Please don't bonus in this round.
Okay. Shazam is actually an acronym, and each letter stands for something.
I thought this might be true, actually. When I was watching it, I thought this is probably...
Do you know...
Shitty, horrible actors... Oh, what could be with Z?
Is it maybe all the powers? So Zap... So Z, I want to say, is like Zap and it's the lightning. And one of them will be something to do with flying.
Speed.
One of them, yeah, okay.
You're close.
Okay.
But
do you think it could be the names of like the old kings or the friends or their names or something?
Jools is getting there, getting
warmer.
warmer.
Like the 5 around the seat or the old...
Oh, so is it like Achilles and...
Yeah.
Because that was one of them, wasn't it?
It was Achilles... What are the others?
Mercury is M.
You have 2 of the letters.
Yeah, we've got the...
So what were the others?
You've got Shaz to do.
Shaz to do still. One of them is...
You would not believe how many times I've heard that. Shaz. So what could Z?
I know,
Zeus is
I'm
Z.
actually, Zeus.
Zeus
Yeah,
is
well
Z.
done.
Zeus is Z.
Ding.
You have 3 more. S, H, and A.
Is Hercules one of them?
Correct, Mundo.
Yes.
So S and
we've got
A.
S and A.
What's the first? What's the other A?
It was Achilles, wasn't it?
Okay.
The wisdom of Solomon.
Correct.
Yes.
You have
Ooh,
one
yes.
last.
And it's who?
And it's A.
It's
Let's
A.
Think of another Greek god. He has sort of an impossible feat to on his shoulders, let's say.
Oh, Atlas.
Atlas.
Correct, Mundo.
So I think we should probably give our final thoughts on the film Shazam. How about we start with you, Jules? What did you like Shazam? Would you recommend Shazam?
As I said earlier, it was a film I liked very much, but it has the caveat of it belongs to a genre where, at its best, it's forgettable. But the 2 hours I was in the cinema, I laughed, I cried, I came out, I was like, what did I laugh and cry about? Yeah, I remember the emotions. Good film. I think if you like superhero films, you'll like this film.
I thought it was a pretty forgettable movie. I certainly don't think this is one to watch in the cinema. I think you could enjoy this at home. Like this big screen spectacle side of it wasn't good enough either, really, to make it stand out. I'd say, watch it for free if you get the chance, if you really like superhero movies. But otherwise, just don't bother.
I think you'll know if you like this film before you watch it.
I reckon it could have done with 15 minutes chopped off, but otherwise I enjoyed it. Would recommend seeing it on the big screen, if not for the fact that we're woefully behind schedule as usual.
Yeah.
So we should move on to our final segment, which is where we consult the book.
No harm ever came from reading a book.
It's alright, I do need one last wee actually. It's quite desperate, I don't think I'll sit through 5 minutes of that.
This is the section of the show where we consult a book and extract a word from it, which we then use to free associate to a film of our choice.
No! You must not read from the book!
Jules, you were brave enough to consult the unholy pages of the Necronomicon last time out. Can you remind us what word are we using today?
The most frightening word in the Necronomicon was discovered, and it is the word new.
New.
With no K, just any
No
W.
K, any W.
I think it was from the Narkila tip.
I see. And Jules, why don't you kick us off? What's film?
A couple of weeks ago, I went to the cinema and I saw the new Pet Sematary.
Place to bury our pets and remember them. Might seem scary, but it's not. Perfectly natural. Just like dying is natural.
The way this links to new is, well, for one, it's a reboot. It put me in a bit of a quandary when I saw this film because I saw it because I'm a massive Stephen King fan and I love the original book. I came out and I enjoyed it immensely. I thought that was a really good film. And I'm not one who really particularly likes horror movies. I need much more from my films in terms of character stuff. I went home, I went online, and I discovered that it had been universally panned. Like, everyone hated it. All the fans and all the... I went down the letterbox reviews and it was just people shitting on this film and talking about how the original was so much better and Reddit comments, and I think a few critics had sort of said, no, it was alright. But there was nobody that had my sort of like, that was a good film. And it just stuck me with this very weird sense of, is there something wrong with me? My taste is the complete opposite.
Yes, but I mean, I don't know about this particular instance. Had it also taken a new direction?
Well, that's the thing. It went in. A lot of the problems that people had comments with were that it didn't stick as close to the source material or specifically the film, because the film is the first film, I should say, is a lot similar to the book. Like in this, a large part of one of the events that happens that controls the way the story goes is different, and that does give a different drive to what even the second half's like, and the ending is completely different. But with Stephen King, you can kind of do a new ending. You're rolling the dice if you're going to get something much better than the original. It went into much new rounds, and because of its new ending and the new direction take, I felt that it brought the themes of the original into a clearer light, and I thought it did a better job in a lot of ways than even the original novel did of trying to tap into what Stephen King was trying to put across in his film on like family and grief and just this tone of just absolute grimness of what would happen if you lost a child and if you had to choose between bringing a child back or letting them die, and how the possibility of giving up on that idea and how it would drive someone to grief would drive people insane. And I thought this film touched on it better, and yet everyone else is just, they believe that the original was much better, and they didn't like the fact that this was a new take on an old tale. It was like it left a bitter taste in their mouth, and I didn't care.
Very nice. Very nice. Haven't seen it. Wasn't planning to, but what you just said makes me more likely to, I think.
I don't think you will like it.
That's good to
This
know.
is the thing. I don't think you will.
I mean, I did quite enjoy the film adaptation of it, but obviously it was more of a B movie attempt, and the book is far deeper, as you say.
Well, the original book isn't something that I think you can make a film out of without it being a bit silly if you do a direct adaptation of it, which is why I think the original film is a bit silly, and I don't find it particularly scary, and it's all right. It's much better as a book.
So in some ways, it's more true as far as you're concerned because it taps into how it makes you feel.
Exactly.
I agree. It's a really grim story.
Exactly.
It's an unpleasant tale.
And what you're talking about is kind of a rejection of the new, because you're saying there's die-hard fans, I'm assuming, who kind of don't like the fact it's been tampered with.
They don't. It's very odd because, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying like this is some sort of masterpiece I saw, but everyone's like actually hating it and giving it like 1, 2 out of 10s, and I don't think this is, no, at worst this is an average film, but it tapped into something that I thought was very well done. Michael, what is your take on the new?
It was quite a generic word with quite a lot of different avenues you could go down. So I played around with this one quite a lot in my head. And I thought I had settled on the idea of going with the new girl and going with that kind of genre, which I quite liked the idea of. But then actually, sad events last month really made my choice for me, which was the death of Agnes Varda on the 29th of March. I'd already kind of toyed with the idea of talking about new wave films, Nouvelle Vague films, as the association, but with the passing of Agnes Varda, who I consider to be the greatest of the new wave directors, I felt I had to talk about one of her films, so I'm going to.
Nice.
The film I've chosen is Le Bonheur from 1965, which means happiness. In comparison to a lot of the other French new wave directors, who I think are in a very mental headspace kind of films. They're films you experience intellectually. I think Varda's films are much more grounded in emotion. I think she's a much better director than a lot of them, to be honest. Yeah. She uses colour and framing really, really nicely. The film Le Bonheur is about a family, an idealistically sort of happy family, youngish couple with their 2 young kids, and then the guy falls in love with another woman who works at the post office, and he thinks that he can have both, basically, that happiness, he starts to talk about happiness as being this additive, that nothing is taken away from the relationship he has with his family due to this new relationship, and then we see whether that really is true or not. So it's amusing on the idea of how does happiness work. But it's in many ways quite a cruel film, but it's a very watchable film. It's got a lovely playful Mozart score behind it. It's very much a summer film. Like almost all of the film takes place in this one season. I think she is reflecting on the fact that nothing really lasts, even though all of the days in this film look like they could be the same. We all know summer comes to an end, and so will happiness fare the same way.
Nice metaphor.
But it's beautifully shot. I think Agnes Varda's films are almost always very enjoyable to watch. So sad to see her pass. And that was my association with New.
When was it made, this film?
It's 1965.
Right, so
within
the new wave then.
One of her films, Le Point Court, is considered by some to be the very first film with a Nouvelle Vague, vague new.
She didn't do From Cleo to 5 to 7.
Cleo to 5 to 7, yeah.
That's fantastic. I think that's the only one I've seen of her so far.
Yeah.
But that's fantastic.
Another real classic, yeah.
Certainly a lot better than Goddard's work.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Yes. In film news, he's 88 years old and he's just announced a new film.
Couldn't he just die instead and make films better?
We might all be, at least in the Truffaut camp maybe, but or maybe in Mike's position, maybe not in either of those camps. But let's not...
Can I go to camp?
Let's not wish him ill at this age.
He's still
Good
really
luck to him making a film at 88.
He's still been knocking them out, hasn't he? He's made several films in the last few years.
I don't know about Goddard knocking them out.
Okay.
Rob, over to you.
Well, mine is quite a well-known film I picked. I recently got the opportunity to see it projected locally at an archive film night we have here in Southend. So I picked Blackmail from 1929. It's not the first sound picture, although it's an early one, and it's definitely Hitch's first, so it's new in that respect.
It's a Hitchcock.
Indeed, yes. It's relatively well-known, but there are so many great uses of the medium of sound implemented, even though it was originally going to be a silent film and had to be remodded quite quickly to incorporate the new technology. But of course, Hitch is a dab hand with the silent film. It was kind of like a new toy for him, really. He kind of told stories without sound so well. Even like in The Lodger, he had to have the idea of footsteps above, and he shot this kind of feet on a glass pane, kind of walking up and down, and then kind of did an overlay onto the ceiling to give the impression. So so for sound, it was, as I say, it was.
How close is
the
this?
opportunity.
Was this to The Lady Vanishes? Because that's like 1938, isn't it?
This is 29, so this is
really
on the
predates
cusp.
it.
There's a nice moment, talking of The Lady Vanishes, because I think this occurs in that as well. There's a nice moment where two of the characters walk into a telephone booth, and we, the audience, can't hear them anymore. He uses it in Topaz, where it's exposition that we know already that he's giving to somebody else, so we don't need to know, so it's just a nice sort of... But he's used that a few times. The two main famous bits of trivia, one of them is that Annie Ondra, the main actress, being Czech, had a bit of an accent. So they had to do the old Singing in the Rain routine with an on-set Joan Barry delivering her lines.
Is that how they paid her?
You asked me to let you hear your voice on the talking picture.
But Hitch, you mustn't do that.
Why not?
Well, because I can speak well.
If you pop onto YouTube, you can see a sound test for Ondra. You can tell it's not due to her being difficult to understand. She's fine.
I've got a question. When they needed to check whether it was working, did they run a sound check?
The squad van will be here any moment.
No, really. Oh my God, I'm terribly frightened.
When?
Oh no!
You have not to come here. Stand in your place, otherwise it will not come out right, as the girl said to the soldier. That's enough.
The other bit of trivia is that Annie Ondra's character in the film kills someone somewhat accidentally with a knife, and she has a guilt about this throughout the film. So when she's around the dinner table with her family, they keep talking about passing the knife and so on, and all of the dialogue is sort of muffled in that kind of Charlie Brown adult way. You can't hear it until the word knife is uttered. So you have this knife.
Did you say it cuts through the sound like a knife?
Indeed,
like
exactly.
A sonic knife.
A sonic knife. It's getting to her. So it's quite clever. So Hitch using his bundle of sound tricks. So it new for quite a lot of audiences, new for Hitchcock, and relatively new for the sound area, right on the cusp.
Very cool.
Fascinating stuff, Rob.
All very interesting associations to the word new. Now I guess we need to consult the book and pick our word for next time. Jools, you've got the Necronomicon in your hands. I can see the smoke rising from them.
Jesus
can you
Christ.
hold on long enough to pluck a word from its unholy pages?
I'll try what I can, Mike. But it's. Shut up! Okay, I've got it. Here we go.
He needs to take his meds.
Here we go. Here we go.
All right, Rob, you hold him down.
Okay. Get the straps.
That's the sound of it whacking against my leg.
Thud.
Thud. I'm going to rifle through the pages. Mike, I want you to tell me when to
Rifle,
stop
you're gonna skim.
on the page. Skim, whatever.
Flick.
Skim it like some...
Scrub.
Stop naming words for going through pages.
Okay.
Mike, say stop and I will stop.
Stop.
Ooh. I think this is an early story based on... It's probably like Dagon or something.
Oh,
based on
Dagon.
the figures.
Yeah.
It's a very early one.
Something about a fishing village.
Right, Rob, where's the thing to stop?
Stop.
Okay, no, that's good. The word is superstitious.
Superstitious.
Oh, I thought you were pointing at the one above that.
No, it was like there.
Yeah, fair enough. Which was paused. There you go. That's the alternate timeline that we.
Yeah, the alternate timeline. No, I was sort of like there.
But we've got superstitious.
Superstitious. A lot of material there.
Of course, paused. The only answer would have been click. The Adam Sandler vehicle.
Oh yes.
Yeah. You say that with such love, Mike.
I like some Adam Sandler films, of course.
I think we'll leave it there.
Thanks very much, Jules. Close the book. Close it. Close it. Oh, we're safe for another day.
We could have a book, really.
Wait a minute, this is my copy of Harry Potter.
So, we have a question from one of our listeners, Andrew Edmonds from Taiwan.
Oh, goodness. International following.
He asks, I quote, "What would the third of Chris Nolan's Batman movies been like if Heath Ledger hadn't died?"
Ooh.
Better.
What happened to the Joker at the end of The Dark Knight?
I think the last time we see him, he's hanging. He's been caught by Batman, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's upside down.
And Gordon's
the world,
there,
he's
so...
upside down.
Gordon's there, so the idea is he's been arrested.
Yeah, I think he gets captured, right? And
yeah.
I mean, I think it's a good question because obviously the best thing about the second film is Heath Ledger and questionably Aaron Eckhart as well, but he dies in the film and Heath Ledger died in real life. There's certainly a sense, I think, that the Joker villain is the true antagonist to Batman, and they make that clear in the movie. You know, they build up the personal connection between them. That Batman can't beat him. There's no way that Batman can actually win, really, in this fight between them. It's an unresolved question. I think had he been alive, he would definitely have been in it. And
I think he probably would have cribbed from another comic.
Well, I do remember reading.
I
do remember reading the David S. Goyer interview where he was talking about what they were originally doing, and they wanted to do, God, what's it called? Nightfall. That is the Batman comic where Bane breaks Batman's back.
Right.
And anyway, you can't put the Joker in the background.
Possibly not. Not like with the Scarecrow, who pops up in both of the others.
But if you put him in the background with Bane, I don't feel like it could work. They work well together.
They're not
as
compatible
characters.
buddies.
They're not at all.
Down to Heath as well. He might have had another film. He was working on Terry Gilliam's Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus. He might have had another opportunity to do something else. And thanks Nolan, I've done the Joker. I don't want to do the Joker again.
Possible.
So it's not all down to Nolan.
Then I think they would sit there in the meeting and they would have thought, how are we going to even make a story to pitch to Ledger of this being a good movie to follow on? So it would have been like a poisoned chalice to start with, because what could you pitch to Ledger in that situation to get him on board?
Well, here's what I would pitch.
Unless he was contracted, sorry.
I would pitch a kind of Silence of the Lambs style thing where you have the Joker still
that's good.
currently there. He's important. He isn't really in the background. We don't know whether he's masterminding things still, or whether he just has respect for... I mean, the problem would be just it being too similar. You'd have to be careful about it.
Yeah, because
it's a cool idea.
It's what we were talking about before. Take a classic film.
But I'm wondering how you... Because would the Joker escape at the end like Hannibal Lecter, like in Silence of the Lambs, so it works?
Would you have a makeupless Joker?
You could do.
I mean, that's the sort of thing that I think would maybe appeal to Ledger as like it would at least be something different. Like, you know,
maybe he claims that he's a new man at the end, and it's kind of...
Plus, if it's a smaller part, you just have to be in one location of film, it'd be cheaper.
I've earned my role, can I be let out, sort of thing.
Which
maybe
might work with Bane, because he's dissimilar to the Joker. It means the Joker can give advice on how to fight, but it can actually be like, is the Joker lying to me, or is it simply that he is not equipped to be able to give Batman the advice he needs to fight Bane? So you create a sort of a tension and a conflict there with Batman. It probably would have been better than the actual film we got, which I thought was kind of rubbish.
This is true.
Yeah.
That's a forgettable film. Great question. Thanks very much, Andrew from Taiwan. I think that's about all we have time for. So without further ado, thank you very much, Rob. Thank you very much, Jools. And thank you very much to all of you out there for listening. Please do write in with your comments, requests, questions. And until then, see you next time in some guy's parents' house for another episode.
Goodbye!
Bye!
Bye, films.
Shazam!
Great, let's watch football.